Wisconsin Attorney General Josh Kaul is calling for President Trump to be removed from office, writing in a statement that, quote, every day he remains in office is a threat to the republic.
And Attorney General Kaul joins us live this morning to talk more about the extraordinary events at the U.S. Capitol that happened yesterday. Attorney General Kaul, thanks so much for getting up early and joining us live this morning.
Thanks for having me.
So I want to ask you about your statement. You issued that yesterday during the chaos that was happening at the Capitol, calling for Congress to act and remove the president from office. Since then, the president has come out with a statement overnight that there would be a peaceful transition of power. Congress did its thing, confirming the election. Do you still stand by your statement that Congress should remove the president?
I do. You know, what happened yesterday at the Capitol was absolutely disgraceful. And it was incited by the President of the United States. And it's really the culmination of months and months of totally false attacks on our election system. And given what the President did, he needs to have consequences for that. Any citizen who had organized that kind of effort, like we saw yesterday, should expect to be prosecuted. At the very least we should do is remove him from office. And while I was glad that statement was issued, I'd like to see the President himself say what his written statement said.
We're speaking with Wisconsin Attorney General Josh Kaul. Mr. Attorney General, we are going to hear from Senator Ron Johnson in a moment, who continues to insist there are unresolved questions about the 2020 election. Let's focus on Wisconsin. Among the irregularities that I hear cited often, the extraordinary number of absentee voters who declared indefinite confinement, the currently pending case before the state Supreme Court regarding the purge of voter rolls that did not happen. Are there any of these questions that have been raised, so-called irregularities, that you believe at least ought to be investigated?
Well, these claims have been reviewed thoroughly. There have been multiple lawsuits filed, and we have been defending the state and defending our election system, and we have won every single one of those cases relating to this election. And that includes in front of some judges who were appointed by President Trump himself. So those claims have been rejected, and it's no surprise that there was an increase in absentee ballots and an increase in the number of people who are indefinitely confined because we're in the middle of a pandemic. We had our two largest counties recounted. There's just absolutely no question about the validity of the election. And the president, or Senator Johnson, who you mentioned is coming on, they're doing a grave disservice to the country and our democracy by continuing to spread these false attacks. This really boils down to voter fraud McCarthyism, and it needs to stop.
Mr. Attorney General, I do want to take you off topic just for a moment since we have you. Your Department of Justice did an exhaustive investigation on the police shooting of Jacob Blake in Kenosha, but in the end you turn over the findings of that to the independently elected district attorney there, who decided not to charge any of the officers involved. Do you concur with his findings in that case?
Well, our role in those cases is fundamentally different from the role of a DA. We gather the evidence and we let the chips fall where they may. It's then up to the district attorney to decide what those chips show. We don't make factual findings, and we don't make a prosecutorial recommendation. But what I will say is that we do need criminal justice reform. We have staggering and unacceptable racial disparities in our system, and we need to make sure that our system is equitable and that we reduce the number of officer-involved critical incidents.
Attorney General, I'd like to ask you about security at the Capitol. I think everybody who was watching was wondering, like, how could this happen? How could so many people get into the U.S. Capitol building? Does that raise concerns for you with the Capitol building in Madison? Will you take a look at security there as a result of what you saw yesterday?
Well, what happened at the Capitol in D.C. yesterday should never happen. And the Capitol police officers went through a very difficult day yesterday, but the leadership needs to be held accountable for what took place there. It's just totally unacceptable. I have a lot of confidence in the Capitol Police here in Wisconsin, and I'm confident that they are both taking appropriate measures and will look at what happened in D.C. and make sure that they learn from that so that we're more secure than we have been before in Wisconsin.
Attorney General Josh Kaul, appreciate your time this morning, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Well, Senators Tammy Baldwin and Ron Johnson both voted against the objections to electoral votes for Arizona and Pennsylvania. Senator Johnson also did not object to Wisconsin's electoral votes for Joe Biden, despite previously saying that he would be doing so. Our Charles Benson spoke with him yesterday about his push for an investigation into allegations of election fraud.
We see allegations of people voting from addresses that are listed as vacant lots by United States Postal Service, people voting that no longer reside in the state that they're supposed to be voting in.
All right, but
listen, Charles, there's all kinds of troubling allegations.
Allegations that have been brought up in courtroom after courtroom, and others have looked at these things, and no one has said that there is a problem here that would say the election was somehow stolen by President-elect Biden. Where's the proof that says he stole this election?
Charles, there's all kinds of evidence that might point to proof that you need time to investigate. And the fact of the matter is also, and one of the things that's suspicious about this is the President's team hasn't been able to conduct the proper discovery. You say the courts have examined all this. A lot of the courts haven't looked at the evidence. They've just dismissed these cases based on procedural grounds.
In the meantime, Wisconsin Congressman Tom Tiffany and Scott Fitzgerald voted to overturn Arizona's and Pennsylvania's votes, but did not object to Wisconsin's votes. To hear the full interview with Senator Johnson and to get caught up on everything that happened overnight, you can always head to TMJ4.com.